I'm going to be sharing with you in this video how to let go of the past and move on into a new reality. How to let the past just be the past so that you can just let it go and be the person that you deserve to be. If you're new to this channel, what I want you to do is I want you to hit that subscribe button. I want you to hit that notification bell because I do actually post a new video every single day. Also, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, the only way to do so right now is by booking in a single session. You can book that by hitting the link that's in the description box of this video. It's also going to be in the comments of this video as well. Now, the first thing that I want to share with you in this video is to just understand that one thing that has worked for me is to simply let that reality be that reality. So that reality has a right to exist, whatever it is, whether maybe it's some past version of you that you embodied, that you no longer resonate to be, maybe where you are conscious now that you were perhaps hurting yourself, maybe you were stuck in some cycle or whatever, the case may be. Maybe it's just something that somebody did to you or whatever, like the key that I've personally found is just let that reality exist because it has a right to exist. I'm not saying that it's justified or that it's necessarily right or that it shouldn't have happened, or I'm not even saying any of that. I'm just saying it exists. It exists. And to say that it shouldn't exist is a form of self-created resistance, right? Because it already happened. And to say that something shouldn't exist when it already happened is going to result in a self-generated resistance. And this is tough for a lot of people because it's like you don't want to accept that it exists. But if we care about how we feel truly at the core, eventually we will have to accept that it simply exists. That it simply exists. Again, I'm not saying that it wasn't valid in the sense that how you feel isn't valid or anything like that. I'm just saying that it exists. That's all I'm saying. It exists, and there cannot be a denial of the fact that it exists because it simply does. So that's the first thing that I want to share with you in this video, is to let that reality be that reality. Just let it be that reality. Let that reality stay in that reality. That reality can exist, but in that reality. And you don't need to participate in that reality any longer. Because if we're talking about perhaps a version of you that you embodied, understand that you can always re-embody those same behaviors. And again, it might be different for every person because maybe we're talking about a situation where somebody did something to you or whatever, but let's just assume we're talking about right now maybe some version of you that you're judging yourself for being that person. Like, oh, I'm judging myself that I did that or whatever. Maybe it's something that somebody else did. Either way, you're going to have forgiveness. Whether it's something that somebody did to you, whether it's something that you did. It's like, oh gosh, what, that was egotistical or whatever, right? I was an asshole, whatever. Look, that reality exists. It already happened, and it can exist in that reality. And that version of you can do it again. It can happen again. You can live into those same behaviors again. You can do it again. But you can also make a choice to say, you know what? That version of me exists. I can tune into that version of myself if I want. but it's just so heavy and so dense that I'm just going to make a choice to simply not embody that any longer. And if you want to go back, you can, but why would you? Because you understand that it's not something you want to go into, and that's integration. That's when you integrate those shadow versions of you. And I'm not saying to even try to bring up the shadow. I believe that the shadows in our life will naturally come up as we follow our highest excitement. But if something comes up, or maybe you fall into some compulsivity or some kind of behavior that you don't like, that you don't have a preference for, let that reality be in that reality. Just let it be in its own reality. Let that reality exist in that reality, and create a boundary and understand that, you know what, that is simply not who I am deciding to be anymore, because it is not my preference. It's not your preference any longer. It's not your preference, okay? Now, and I know how that sounds, like, oh, because when you say preference, it allows it to exist, but you're just saying no from a space of not denying that it's a part of existence. Does that make sense? Leave a comment down below if that makes sense. Now, the second thing that I want to share with you in this video is to understand that, in terms of how to let that past version of you be the past and move on into a new reality, is number two, that reality will always exist. That's what I want to share with you as well. That reality will always exist. It will always exist. Always. Because energy can never be created nor destroyed. It will always exist. So if we're talking about, again, some kind of behavior or pattern, it will always exist. These shadow versions of us that we want to deny as a part of existence, I'm going to share with you why it has to exist. And when I realized this, it really even brought tears to my eyes. And it still does. Because it's almost like the universe is so beautifully designed. Think about it like this. A man of true power, a man with true power, I'm talking true power, not ego power, true power. So much, like I don't even know how to define true power, because I guess I'm gonna have to record a whole video on that. But just I guess let's just say that a person can make a choice to do a lot of negative things to himself and to others. Like that much power. I guess you could say, I mean, I don't know how you define that. There's so many different factors to consider here. But let's just say that this person of power, man or woman, has the ability to be very dark and to do very dark things. But he or she chooses not to. That's true power. That's when you're really in your power and when you're in your consciousness. A true leader can make a lot of negative decisions and hurt himself and others. A lot of negative decisions. Somebody with a large audience, with all this consciousness and this power to make these types of choices, can make a lot of hurtful decisions for him or herself and others. But true power is to have that awareness and not make those decisions, to have that discernment, to make the best decisions that that person feels for him or herself and others, the best possible choice. How do you make those kind of choices? Well, that's going to have to be a whole nother video. But understand that that person sees all these possibilities, even dark possibilities, very dark possibilities, that they're just not going to be conducive to anyone's benefit for the most part. But that person understands. And let me ask you this: how did that person get to that position of power? I'm talking true power, not somebody that believes they're in power, but really they're just scared and egotistical and narcissistic. But somebody with true power, how did they get there? Well, they have been in the dark. They have already been in the shadows. They've already been in the negativity. They've already been in lots of pain, suffering, and on lots and lots and lots of pain. And they see that they can recreate that if they want, but they're choosing simply not to. I believe, in my personal opinion, that's true power, is to see that you have the power and the consciousness to do all these things, but you choose to make good choices. You choose to be good in the world. You choose to be a powerful force, echoing into oblivion, making good choices that you believe are going to be as beneficial as possible for you and others, with as much consciousness and composure as possible. And that's your free will choice, right? And you're probably thinking at this point, well, how does this even relate to, or maybe you're not thinking this, so I don't know. You might be thinking, how does this relate to letting the past be the past? Well, think about it. That's your goal here. Your goal here is to see that you can go to that past reality. You can do all these negative things. You can be that person that you perceive of as relative to this new version of you that you believe is better and more wise and more noble. You can see that other version of you, you can see that you believe is more narcissistic, or maybe some shadow part of you that is, relative to that new version of you. You see, like, you know what? I can go do that. I can be that. It's all a possibility. It's on offer for me. It's on offer. It always will be on offer. That's true power. But you say to yourself, no, I am going to do good in the world instead of that. Simply because you understand the consequences of not moving on. There's consequences to not moving on, okay? And I'm not saying that you can't do it if you don't want to, but the consequences, and I shared a lot in my videos, will most likely be resistance, suffering, and you're hurting yourself and others, okay? And the third and final thing that I want to share with you in this video is when you're moving on into a new version of yourself, and I used to have a lot of resistance to this way of thinking because I believed it was like, I was like in like imposter syndrome. Like, oh, I'm like being an imposter, I'm being fake. And people are gonna think I'm fake. But the third thing that I want to share with you is to let yourself be fake. Let yourself be fake. What does that mean? That means to let yourself be a little bit kind of like fake it till you make it. Let yourself be kind of like a fake it till you make it kind of person, Abraham Hicks talks about this a lot. And I used to think that it was kind of ridiculous. It's like, oh, that's just a person running away from reality or whatever. That person is, delusional. But it's like, all these possibilities exist for who you can be in life. And if you're anything like me, perhaps you've been through lots of shadow parts of yourself and maybe lots of suffering in your life, right? You've been through enough suffering in your life. That's the point that I got to in my life. I was like, you know what? I've been through enough suffering. I've been through enough suffering. And it's like you get to the point where you're tired of being tired. You're tired of the suffering. You're tired of living into these loops. So what you want to do is move forward. And how do you move forward? Now, if you've been in fear for a very long time in your life, at first you're going to feel a little bit fake. You're going to feel like you're lying to yourself. You might feel like it's not being real. But the thing with these challenges and these shadow aspects of us is that in order to integrate them, we have to, number one, accept that these versions of us exist in that reality, and then to think outside of the box, think greater than that shadow, than that version of you, and to decide to be something else. And you might want to be a little bit fake at the start of it. At the start of it, you might want to be a little bit fake. But I promise you that eventually you will see no difference between fake it till you make it and then who you're becoming. You become a new version of yourself. And I think that it's absolutely beautiful, because what this does is this lets you be that person you want to be, but at the same time, though, not resist these other versions of you. And that's how you can hold compassion for other people as well. But that's a whole nother video as well. So just let yourself be fake. Let yourself fake it till you make it. I think that's great advice. And in my experience, that's been useful for me. And with that, I conclude this video. Once again, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, hit the link that's in the description box of this video. It's also going to be in the comments of this video as well. As always, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.